You checked for a sign again today, even though you had already told yourself you were done checking. You looked at the screen for one small change, a message, a name, a number, a reply, a little piece of evidence that something had moved while you were busy living the rest of your life. You opened the same thought you had already opened in your mind a dozen times. You went back over the same conversation and listened for a meaning that had somehow escaped you the first time. You wondered if you should send one more message, make one more effort, ask one more question, explain yourself one more time, search one more page, make one more plan, or do one more thing so you could finally feel that the story was moving again. There was a moment, probably a very ordinary one, when you told yourself you were fine. You answered someone. You finished a task. You washed a cup, folded something, walked through a room, or looked out a window. From the outside, nothing unusual was happening. Inside, a part of you was still listening for movement. That part of you has become very skilled at listening. It can hear silence and turn it into a question. It can see a delay and turn it into a verdict. It can feel uncertainty and immediately begin searching for the missing piece that would make uncertainty stop. You may have called this overthinking. You may have called it intuition. You may have called it being responsible, being prepared, being realistic, or just trying to understand what is going on. Sometimes it is a mixture of all of those things. You are not foolish for wanting clarity. You are not weak for wanting reassurance. You are not doing spirituality incorrectly because your mind still wants proof. There is one important difference that we are going to uncover together, and it is not the difference between being positive and being negative. It is not the difference between believing hard enough and failing to believe. It is something quieter than that. It has to do with what you do inside yourself while an answer is still forming outside your sight. We will come back to that. For now, there is nothing you have to perform here. You do not need to create the right mood. You do not need to make yourself peaceful before you are ready. You do not need to force gratitude over a place that still hurts. You do not need to tell yourself that you should be happy because somebody else has it worse. You do not need to turn uncertainty into a lesson before you have even had time to feel it. You do not need to prove that you trust life by pretending you do not care what happens. You do not need to make a list, repeat a perfect sentence, hold your body a certain way, or convince yourself that every unanswered question is secretly wonderful. Nothing is being graded. Nothing is being scored. There is no invisible test you are failing because you woke up worried, checked again, cried, felt irritated, felt tired, or wished the answer would hurry up. It does not argue with darkness. It gives light where it stands. There are moments when your spiritual language may have asked too much of you. You may have believed that if you were truly aligned, you would never feel afraid. If you were truly trusting, you would never question. If you were truly healing, you would never return to an old pattern. If you were truly positive, you would never have a difficult day. If you were truly worthy, good things would arrive quickly. Those ideas can turn the inner life into another performance. The flame does not perform. It does not become more deserving by burning brighter. It does not apologize when it flickers. It does not compare itself with another flame across the room. It does not call itself a failure because the room still contains darkness. It gives what it can give from where it is. There is wisdom in that. You do not have to illuminate your entire life tonight. You do not have to solve the relationship. You do not have to understand why the delay happened. You do not have to predict whether the opportunity will return. You do not have to know which month everything changes. You do not have to prove that the universe is working in your favor. You can let mystery remain mystery without making mystery your enemy. Your responsibility is closer. What is in your hands? What needs care now? What has been asking for warmth? What part of you has been left standing in the inner dark because all your light was pointed outward? You may realize that you have been extraordinarily generous with your light. You gave it to people who were confused. You gave it to people who needed reassurance. You gave it to family members who depended on your strength. You gave it to co-workers who expected you to stay composed. You gave it to children. You gave it to partners. You gave it to friends. You gave it to strangers when you smiled through a difficult day because you did not want them to feel uncomfortable. You gave it to plans. You gave it to deadlines. You gave it to other people's emergencies. You gave it to the version of yourself who kept saying, just get through this first. There is nothing wrong with sharing warmth. The problem begins when every flame is passed outward and none is passed inward. The smaller hands learn a painful lesson. Everybody else gets the light first. Everything else gets your attention first. Every problem gets examined before you ask how you are doing. Every person gets understood before you understand your own limits. Every possibility gets considered before you consider what your nervous system has been carrying. You become the keeper of light for the whole room while a younger place inside you remains cold. That is not selfishness waiting to be corrected. That is exhaustion asking for balance. Imagine the grown hands lowering the candle now. No rush. The smaller hands do not have to reach far. The light comes toward them. This is important because much of your life may have trained you to reach. Reach for approval. Reach for confirmation. Reach for love. Reach for someone to choose you. Reach for the answer. Reach for certainty. Reach for the next achievement. Reach for enough money. Reach for the moment when you finally feel secure. The inward passing reverses the direction. The smaller hands do not chase the flame. The flame is brought home. That movement changes the meaning of receiving. Receiving is not always something arriving from somewhere else. Sometimes receiving is letting your grown self give your inner self what has been postponed. Patience, respect, a boundary, a meal, quiet, honesty, permission to stop performing, permission to say that something hurt, permission to admit that you still want what you want, permission to stop pretending that uncertainty does not affect you, permission to be a human being in the middle of an unfinished chapter. The flame warms those permissions. It makes them real. You can tell yourself 1,000 times to stop worrying, but worry often softens more through care than command. Imagine saying to those smaller hands, I am not asking you to know what happens next. I am not asking you to trust every person. I am not asking you to like this delay. I am not asking you to call disappointment a blessing. I am bringing you light while we wait. There is something powerful in that last sentence, not because the sentence controls the future, because it changes the relationship between you and the future. You are no longer standing before tomorrow with empty hands. You are holding something, your own presence, your own discernment, your capacity to respond when real information arrives, your capacity to ask for help, your capacity to change direction, your capacity to say yes, your capacity to say no, your capacity to begin again. These are forms of light too. You may have been searching for signs that prove the universe has not forgotten you. There is another question worth asking. Have you forgotten yourself while waiting for the sign? Not as an accusation, as an opening. Did you stop listening to hunger because you were anxious? Did you stay awake scrolling because you thought one more piece of information might settle you? Did you ignore the need for company because you felt you should handle everything alone? Did you agree to something because you were afraid saying no would close a door? Did you spend money from panic because uncertainty made immediate relief feel necessary? Did you accept inconsistent attention because some attention seemed better than silence? Did you keep explaining a boundary because you wanted permission to have it? Did you delay something useful because you were waiting for emotional certainty first? These are not reasons to judge yourself. They are places where the flame can be redirected. The universe, life, timing, circumstance, other people, and processes outside your control may indeed be moving in ways you cannot see. You do not need to pretend you know exactly what those movements are. A spiritual life can contain mystery without turning mystery into a guarantee. You can hold the possibility that something meaningful is taking shape while remaining honest about what you know and what you do not know. That honesty protects the flame. False certainty burns hot and fast. Grounded trust is steadier. It says, I cannot see the whole arrangement. It says, I do not need to invent details. It says, I can respond to what is real. It says, I can remain open to what has not arrived yet. Think about how different this feels from forcing. Forcing leans forward. Forcing tightens the fingers. Forcing watches the flame every second and asks why it is not larger. Forcing tries to drag tomorrow into today. Forcing sends the extra message not because communication is needed, but because anxiety wants a response. Forcing says yes before the body has caught up. Forcing stays in a conversation long after clarity has disappeared. Forcing attempts to earn what should require mutuality. Forcing believes more effort can make another person's choice belong to you. Forcing mistakes motion for power. The candle shows another kind of power, a cupped hand, a protected flame, a slower movement, enough space for air, enough care that the light is not crushed by the very hands trying to preserve it. This is how some situations need to be held, not abandoned, not chased, held. There are seeds of change that cannot be pulled open without damage. There are conversations that reveal themselves through time. There are people whose consistency can only be measured through repeated action. There are opportunities that require waiting after the application is sent. There are decisions that need information you do not yet have. There are griefs that do not respond to deadlines. There are parts of healing that cannot be ordered to hurry. You are allowed to participate without taking over. You are allowed to care without controlling. You are allowed to hope without demanding a schedule from hope. You are allowed to leave space around what is still becoming clear. This does not mean doing nothing forever. A candle is active. It burns. It gives heat. It uses what it has. Your life can be active in the same way. You can take the next real step, then stop. You can ask the necessary question, then listen. You can make the appointment, then wait for the appointment. You can state the boundary, then observe what happens. You can send the application, then return to your day. You can apologize sincerely, then let the other person decide what they do with your apology. You can offer love, then leave room for another person to choose whether they can meet you there. That space after the action is where the old habit often returns. Do more, explain more, check more, push more, control more. The grown hands can answer differently. We have already brought the flame where it belongs. We do not have to wave it at every shadow. There is one kind of darkness that comes from not knowing. There is another kind created by refusing to look at what you already know. The candle helps with both. Trust does not require ignoring evidence. If somebody repeatedly shows you that they cannot respect a boundary, the light is not asking you to call disrespect divine timing. If an arrangement is unsafe, the light is not asking you to remain there and wait for a spiritual lesson. If professional advice is needed, the flame is not threatened by seeking it. If the numbers do not work, grounded light can look at the numbers. If your body is asking for qualified care, grounded light can make the appointment. If somebody's behavior keeps hurting you, grounded light can name what is happening. The inward flame is not fantasy. It is the warmth that helps you face reality without becoming consumed by it. This is why the smaller hands must receive it. A frightened inner part can confuse surrender with danger. It may hear, "Let things unfold," and think, no one is protecting us. It may hear trust and remember times when trust was misplaced. It may hear stop controlling and fear that no one will act when action is necessary. The grown hands have to teach something more precise. We are not giving up our discernment. We are giving up the belief that fear must hold the candle every hour. We are not surrendering our voice. We are surrendering the exhausting demand to predict every response. We are not walking blindly. We are refusing to pretend we can see what has not yet been revealed. We are not becoming passive. We are becoming available to the present. Feel how different that is. The flame remains alive. The smaller hands begin to warm. The grown hands do not disappear after passing it inward. They remain nearby. That detail matters. You are not dropping responsibility into the hands of a childlike part of yourself. You are letting that part receive warmth while your grown self continues to choose. Your adult wisdom stays present. Your boundaries stay present. Your experience stays present. Your ability to act stays present. Now something new becomes possible. The smaller hands no longer have to keep reaching toward every distant light. They have a flame of their own. A person with inner warmth does not become indifferent to the world. They become less likely to beg the world to prove they exist, less likely to treat every delay as rejection, less likely to confuse another person's confusion with their own worth, less likely to make permanent conclusions from temporary silence, less likely to spend the whole day standing at the emotional window. There can still be disappointment. There can still be longing. There can still be impatience. The difference is that those feelings no longer have to extinguish everything else. One unanswered question does not own the whole room. One closed door does not erase every window. One person's uncertainty does not reduce your value. One delay does not become a verdict on your future. The flame remains, small enough to carry, warm enough to matter, steady enough for the next honest step. This is where the teaching changes from an image into a practice of relationship with yourself. Not a ritual, not another assignment. A relationship. Each time your attention runs toward the outer darkness, your grown hands can return to the smaller ones. Each time your mind asks for a guarantee, you can offer presence instead. Each time you feel tempted to force an answer, you can ask whether a real action is needed or whether fear is trying to turn uncertainty into work. Each time no action is required, the light can come inward. You may not know yet what is being rearranged beyond your sight. You may not know which part of the current picture is temporary. You may not know what another person is learning. You may not know which delay is merely a delay and which delay is a redirection. You may not know what will remain. You may not know what will leave. You may not know what arrives next. You do know where the candle is now. It is no longer held at arm's length, searching every corner of the future. Your grown hands have brought it close. The smaller hands are beginning to receive the warmth. The room is still unfinished. The future is still unwritten. The unanswered questions are still unanswered. Something important has changed anyway. You are no longer asking the unknown to hold all of your light. That is the place where trust begins to change its meaning. Not trust as blind optimism. Not trust as pretending. Not trust as telling yourself that every delay is secretly perfect, every loss is secretly a gift, or every closed door is secretly protecting you from something worse. Trust becomes more grounded than that. It becomes the decision to stop demanding that uncertainty prove itself harmless before you permit yourself to live. You may still want the outcome. You may still care deeply. You may still feel the pull to check. The difference is that you begin to recognize the pull without obeying every time it calls. The smaller hands inside you are learning that they do not need to chase light across the room. The grown hands are learning that they do not need to turn every shadow into a mission. This is where forcing and allowing become easier to distinguish. Forcing says, I must make this move. Allowing says, I can make my move and leave room for what is not mine. Forcing says, I need an answer now so I can finally feel okay. Allowing says, I would like an answer and I can care for myself before it arrives. Forcing says, if I stop pushing, everything will fall apart. Allowing says, if something requires constant pressure to remain in my life, I am allowed to ask what that pressure is costing me. Forcing says, one more explanation might finally make them understand. Allowing says, I have spoken clearly enough to let their response become information. Forcing says, if I keep thinking, I will solve the feeling. Allowing says, some feelings need warmth more than analysis. These distinctions can look small from the outside. Inside, they are enormous. They change the way your hands hold the candle. You stop gripping. You stop stretching the flame toward every distant corner. You stop mistaking tension for devotion. You stop believing that your anxiety is evidence of how much you care. You can care without suffering in advance. That may be unfamiliar. Many people were taught directly or indirectly that worry is part of love. If you love someone, you worry about them. If something matters, you obsess over it. If a goal matters, you push until you are exhausted. If a relationship matters, you keep trying. If family matters, you keep giving. If work matters, you never stop thinking about it. If the future matters, you prepare for every possible disaster. Then peace begins to feel suspicious. Calm can feel like neglect. Stepping back can feel like failure. Not checking can feel irresponsible. Rest can feel as if you are missing something important. The mind asks, what if the moment I stop watching is the moment everything changes? So you keep watching. You keep the candle lifted. You keep scanning the room. You keep your own hands occupied with the job of predicting. What if care did not require surveillance? What if love did not require self-erasure? What if responsibility did not require constant tension? What if trust was not the absence of wisdom, but the moment wisdom stopped being driven by panic? These are not abstract questions. They show up in ordinary decisions. You receive a short message. Your mind wants to decode the punctuation. You can ask whether there is actual information in the message that requires action. You make a mistake. Your mind wants to build a complete identity out of one moment. You can correct what can be corrected without turning correction into self-punishment. Someone is distant. Your mind wants to become more impressive, more pleasing, more available, more useful. You can let their distance reveal what their distance reveals. A plan slows down. Your mind wants to treat the delay as evidence that the plan is dead. You can look at the facts before you write the ending. A door closes. Your mind wants to force it open because you already imagined your future on the other side. You can grieve the closing without making it proof that no other path exists. That is the grown hand at work, not passive, not detached, steady. The smaller hands still feel. The grown hands still choose. Both are needed. The younger part of you may say, please do something. The grown part can answer, I will do what is mine. That sentence carries a different kind of strength. I will do what is mine. Not everything. Not everyone else's part. Not tomorrow's part. Not the part belonging to timing. Not the part belonging to another person's maturity. Not the part belonging to circumstances outside my reach. What is mine? That is enough work for one pair of hands. You may discover that much of your exhaustion came from trying to carry invisible assignments nobody actually gave you. Make them understand. Make them stay. Make them choose. Make the timing work. Make the family peaceful. Make the outcome fair. Make the future safe. Make everybody comfortable with your decision. Make every possibility turn out well. Make sure nobody is disappointed. Make sure you never regret anything. These are impossible assignments. No wonder the grown hands ache. You were asking them to hold the whole room. They only need to hold the candle. There is relief in that image because it narrows responsibility without shrinking your power. You still have power. You can move. You can decide. You can ask. You can leave. You can return. You can apologize. You can begin again. You can seek support. You can learn. You can revise a plan. You can say no. You can say yes. You can take one step and observe what follows. What you cannot do is guarantee how the room responds to your flame. That does not make the flame useless. It makes it honest. The world contains other people with their own histories, fears, capacities, timing, choices, and limitations. The world contains systems larger than you. The world contains chance. It contains beauty you could not have scheduled. It contains disappointments you could not have prevented. It contains opportunities that appear after plans fail. It contains endings that hurt. It contains beginnings that do not look important when they first arrive. A wise spiritual life makes room for all of that. It does not ask you to pretend your thoughts control every event. It asks a more humane question. How will you meet yourself while life remains alive and unpredictable? The candle answers without words, with warmth, with attention, with enough light for what is here. That may be why the word trust has become difficult for you. Trust may have been used around you as a demand. Trust me. Trust the process. Trust that I know what is best. Trust that everything happens for a reason. Trust that you should stay. Trust that you should wait. Trust that you should stop asking questions. If trust was ever used to silence your judgment, the word itself may make something inside you pull back. That response deserves respect. Trust without discernment is not the goal. Trust without boundaries is not the goal. Trust without evidence in relationships is not the goal. The inward flame does not ask you to hand your life over to someone else's promises. It asks you to become less divided against yourself. That is very different. You can trust yourself enough to look at reality. You can trust yourself enough to leave a fantasy when the facts are clear. You can trust yourself enough to remain open when the facts are not yet clear. You can trust yourself enough to wait without humiliating yourself for waiting. You can trust yourself enough to change your mind. You can trust yourself enough to admit that you want something. You can trust yourself enough to survive disappointment if it comes. You can trust yourself enough to receive joy if it comes. You can trust yourself enough not to punish yourself either way. This is why the affirmation for this part of your life cannot be a promise about what the universe must deliver. It has to be something sturdier, something that remains useful whether the answer arrives today, later, differently, or not at all. Here it is. I can trust what is changing, even before I understand where it is leading. Let the sentence rest inside you without turning it into a test. I can trust what is changing, even before I understand where it is leading. You do not have to feel completely convinced. The sentence is not a contract with the future. It is a way of loosening the demand that you know everything before you move through today. I can trust what is changing, even before I understand where it is leading. There's one word in that sentence that may resist you. Trust. If trust feels easy, receive it. If trust feels difficult, do not force it. The smaller hands may remember times when trust cost something. They may remember being told that someone was safe when that person was not. They may remember believing a promise that was broken. They may remember expecting support that never came. They may remember waiting beyond the point where waiting was kind. They may remember giving more chances because hope felt more loving than truth. Those memories deserve a place in the room. You do not extinguish them. You do not call them negative. You do not try to shine the candle so brightly that they disappear. You let the flame sit nearby. Trust can mature. It can become more precise. You do not have to trust every person. You do not have to trust every situation. You do not have to trust every impulse. You do not have to trust every interpretation your fear produces. You can trust your ability to gather information. You can trust your right to ask questions. You can trust the evidence of consistent behavior. You can trust your right to step away when evidence becomes clear. You can trust your capacity to seek wise help. You can trust your ability to learn what you did not know before. You can trust yourself to keep bringing the candle inward. That kind of trust does not make you easier to manipulate. It can make you harder to manipulate because you are no longer desperate for someone else to become your only source of light. This is one of the quiet changes that can happen when you stop asking the outside world to regulate every inner feeling. You become less available for crumbs that used to feel like rescue. A little attention no longer feels enormous simply because you were starved for reassurance. A vague promise no longer feels like certainty simply because you were afraid of losing hope. An inconsistent relationship no longer feels like destiny simply because your nervous system is activated by unpredictability. A delayed answer no longer becomes proof that you must work harder to deserve a response. You begin to see more clearly because your hands are not shaking as much from the effort of holding the entire future. Clarity often arrives after pressure decreases, not always immediately, not as magic, but pressure can distort what you see. When you are desperate for a certain outcome, every sign becomes evidence for it or against it. You read too much into small things. You ignore larger patterns. You dismiss what you know because what you want feels louder. Or you dismiss what you want because fear feels wiser than desire. The inward flame creates enough warmth for honesty. I want this. I am afraid of losing it. Both can be true. I hope this works. I cannot guarantee that it will. Both can be true. I love this person. I need to look at how I am treated. Both can be true. I am disappointed. My life is not over. Both can be true. I do not know what comes next. I can still take care of myself today. Both can be true. You do not need one truth to destroy the other. Maturity often looks like holding more than one truth without rushing to simplify the room. The candle is small enough to teach this. Light and shadow can exist together. Warmth does not erase darkness. Darkness does not erase warmth. Uncertainty does not erase your capacity. Fear does not erase your wisdom. Hope does not erase your discernment. Grief does not erase the possibility of future joy. One emotion does not get to declare the whole landscape. You are more spacious than the feeling passing through you. This is where forcing begins to lose some of its appeal. You see the cost more clearly. Every time you force, you are often trying to trade self-trust for immediate certainty. Tell me now, choose me now, reassure me now, resolve this now, make this feeling stop now. Sometimes asking directly is healthy. Sometimes action is required. The problem is not the word now. The problem is when you believe you cannot remain with yourself unless the world obeys it. Then the world becomes your emotional regulator. Other people's responses control the temperature of your inner room. A message raises it. Silence lowers it. Praise raises it. Criticism lowers it. Progress raises it. Delay lowers it. An invitation raises it. Exclusion lowers it. You become dependent on conditions you cannot fully command. The candle offers another source, not the only source. Human beings need each other. Connection matters. Support matters. Love matters. Community matters. Care matters. The lesson is not isolation. The lesson is that external love becomes healthier when it is not required to perform every function inside you. You can receive reassurance without needing reassurance to create your entire worth. You can enjoy praise without making praise the only evidence that you are doing well. You can love someone without asking them to resolve every fear you carry. You can be supported without becoming powerless when support is temporarily unavailable. You can let other people bring candles into your room without insisting that your own flame go out when they leave. There is dignity in that. the smaller hands begin to learn a new association. Waiting does not always mean abandonment. Silence does not always mean rejection. A closed door does not always mean punishment. A delay does not always mean failure. An unanswered question does not always mean danger. And when any of those things do mean something difficult, you are still not without light. That may be the deeper prophecy hidden beneath all the checking you have been doing. You thought you needed to know what was coming so you could prepare yourself. What you may have. If you needed more was to know that you would remain available to yourself when it came. That is a different kind of preparation. It does not require predicting the event. It requires strengthening the relationship between the hands that have lived and the hands that still fear. The grown hands say, "I have more experience now." The smaller hands say, "I am still scared." The grown hands answer, "You are allowed to be scared." The smaller hands say, "What if this goes wrong?" The grown hands answer, "Then we will meet what is real." The smaller hands say, "What if nothing changes?" The grown hands answer, "Then we will keep choosing from what is true." The smaller hands say, "What if they do not choose us?" The grown hands answer, "Our worth does not wait inside their decision." The smaller hands say, "What if we are late?" The grown hands answer, "We do not know the whole map." The smaller hands say, "What if I cannot trust this?" The grown hands answer, "Then you do not have to pretend." That is where the fallback begins. You are here as you are. That is enough to begin. There are days when waiting takes more energy than doing. Doing gives the mind somewhere to place its hands. You make the call. You write the email. You sign the paper. You clean the room. You have the conversation. You make the appointment. You take the next practical step. Then there are stretches when there is nothing useful left to do, and that can feel far more difficult. The hands are empty, but the mind keeps working. It tries to invent another task, because a task feels safer than a mystery. It tries to turn waiting into management. It tries to turn silence into research. It tries to turn a pause into a problem that can be solved if you think long enough. You refresh the page, even though you know nothing has changed. You check the bank balance again, even though you checked earlier. You look at the application portal. You reopen the conversation thread. You search someone's tone for a clue. You compare what they said yesterday with what they said last week. You look at the clock. You look at the calendar. You count how long it has been. You imagine what you will say if the answer is yes. Then you imagine what you will say if the answer is no. Then you imagine what you should have said before the question even existed. The body can be sitting completely still while the mind is walking miles. Sometimes you catch yourself rehearsing conversations with people who are not in the room. You explain your side perfectly in your imagination. You finally find the sentence that would make them understand. You hear their response before they have given one. You correct them. You defend yourself. You soften your tone. You start over. You imagine being seen. You imagine being misunderstood. You imagine walking away. You imagine them coming back. Then the actual room returns. The actual chair. The actual light. The actual silence. Nothing happened outside you, yet you have already lived through 10 versions of what could happen next. This can leave you tired in a way that sleep does not always fix. You may even know that you are doing it while you are doing it. That awareness does not always stop it. The mind can understand a pattern and still repeat it because understanding is not the same as feeling safe. That matters. You can know intellectually that a delayed message is not a rejection and still feel your stomach tighten when the screen stays quiet. You can know that people become busy, overwhelmed, confused, distracted, or uncertain, and still take the silence personally. You can know that an application takes time and still feel left behind. You can know that money, work, family, love, health, identity, and belonging are complicated parts of life and still wish there were a clear sign telling you what comes next. Knowing is useful. Safety is deeper. If you cannot believe the larger affirmation yet, you do not need to stretch yourself into words that feel false. Use something smaller, something honest, something the body can receive without resistance. I am willing to feel safe while I do not know yet. That may be enough. Not I am safe in every circumstance. Not everything is fine. Not nothing can hurt me. Not the universe guarantees my preferred result. I am willing to feel safe while I do not know yet. The willingness matters because it leaves the door open without demanding that you walk through it all at once. I am willing to feel safe while I do not know yet. You might only believe 5% of it. That 5% belongs to you. You do not need to inflate it. You do not need to pretend it is 100. A small, honest flame is more useful than a giant imagined one. You may feel the difference in your body when a sentence is true enough to enter. The jaw may stop working so hard. The shoulders may lower slightly. The hands may unclench. The stomach may remain uneasy, but not quite as alone. The chest may still carry uncertainty, but the uncertainty is no longer the only presence there. Warmth has joined it. This is not about controlling the body into calm. Your body is not another problem to solve. It is another pair of hands to listen to. Sometimes it settles, sometimes it does not. Sometimes the best you can offer is, I hear you. That counts. You have spent years believing change must announce itself loudly. A call, a breakthrough, a confession, a decision, a sudden opportunity, a dramatic sign. Many important changes begin more quietly. You stop sending the message you used to send. You stop explaining after your boundary is clear. you stop calling panic intuition every time it speaks quickly. You stop treating your worst case scenario as the most intelligent voice in the room. You stop abandoning the day because tomorrow has not answered. You start recognizing the moment your hands reach outward for proof. You start bringing them back. That is rearrangement too. A relationship with yourself can reorganize before your circumstances do. Your standards can reorganize. Your attention can reorganize. Your sense of what deserves access to you can reorganize. Your definition of trust can reorganize. Your relationship with waiting can reorganize. Then, when outer circumstances change, you meet them as someone slightly different from the person who began waiting. That difference matters more than it first appears, because sometimes the thing you asked for arrives after you have outgrown the version of yourself who would have accepted it at any cost. Sometimes an opportunity appears and you realize you need different terms. Sometimes a person returns and you realize that return alone is not enough. Sometimes the answer is yes, but your boundaries are clearer. Sometimes the answer is no, but you do not collapse into the old belief that no means unworthy. Sometimes nothing dramatic happens, yet you notice that you went an entire afternoon without checking. That afternoon is not nothing. It is evidence of a new arrangement inside. The smaller hands held the flame. The grown hands did not have to patrol the whole room. This is how trust becomes embodied rather than performed, not through perfect calm, through repeated moments of returning from the imagined conversation, returning from the future catastrophe, returning from the fantasy rescue, returning from the need to know, returning from the urge to measure your worth through someone else's response, returning from every distant corner where you left your light. You do not have to drag yourself back. The grown hands know the way now. They come inward. They cup the flame. They lower it toward the smaller hands. The gesture becomes familiar. The room may still be unfinished. The movement beyond your sight may still be unfinished. The answer may still be unfinished. You no longer need to finish yourself against the uncertainty. Something in you is becoming steadier before the outer story has decided what it will be. That steadiness does not have to arrive all at once. There may still be mornings when your first thought reaches outward before you even realize it. There may still be afternoons when silence feels heavier than it should. There may still be nights when the mind reopens something you thought you had already set down. None of that cancels what is changing. A new pattern does not become real because the old one disappears overnight. It becomes real because you begin recognizing the moment of choice, the moment between the fear and the action, the moment between the urge and the message, a moment between the story and the evidence, the moment between reaching outward and bringing the flame back toward yourself. That moment may be very small at first. Small does not mean insignificant. A candle is small. It still changes the room. You may still hear the old voice. Check again, ask again, explain again, fix it now, find out now, make sure now. You do not have to answer that voice with anger. You can answer with a question. Is there anything real for me to do? That question protects you from two extremes. One extreme is forcing. The other is pretending you should never act. There are times when the answer is yes. Yes, send the email. Yes, ask the doctor. Yes, speak to the person directly. Yes, review the numbers. Yes, call the trusted friend. Yes, leave the situation. Yes, get another opinion. Yes, say clearly that something is not acceptable. Yes, follow up when follow-up is reasonable. Yes, take the practical step. Trust is not inactivity. The flame is not inactivity. A flame moves even when it appears still. Your inner steadiness can move too. The question is whether the movement comes from clarity or panic. Panic wants relief immediately. Clarity can tolerate the few extra moments needed to ask what the situation actually requires. Panic says any action is better than uncertainty. Clarity says the right action matters more than frantic motion. Panic keeps adding words. Clarity sometimes removes them. Panic wants to control another person's answer. Clarity focuses on what you are willing to accept. Panic tries to guarantee an outcome. Clarity prepares you to meet the outcome that becomes real. This difference can save enormous amounts of energy. It can also save you from mistaking self-abandonment for trust. There are situations where waiting is not the loving choice. There are places where patience becomes an excuse for staying too long. There are relationships where more understanding on your part does not create more respect on the other side. There are environments where your body has been telling the truth before your mind was ready to hear it. There are moments when the most compassionate thing you can do is move away from harm. Peace does not mean remaining where you are being threatened, controlled, humiliated, exploited, manipulated, or repeatedly harmed. Love does not require you to keep access open to someone who keeps using that access to injure you. Spiritual trust does not mean ignoring danger. Boundaries are not a failure of compassion. Leaving can be an act of compassion toward yourself. Seeking support can be an act of wisdom. If something touches your physical or psychological well-being, your finances, your legal situation, your safety, or your ability to function, affirmations can support your inner steadiness, but they are not a replacement for qualified help. A trusted friend can matter. Community can matter. A licensed professional can matter. Medical care can matter. Legal guidance can matter. Financial guidance can matter. Practical support can matter. Asking for help does not dim the candle. It can be one way of protecting it. There is no spiritual prize for suffering alone. There is no higher state earned by refusing assistance. The grown hands inside you are not meant to do everything without support. They are meant to discern what belongs in them and what should be shared with trustworthy hands. That is part of growing. The smaller hands may have learned that asking for help was dangerous. They may have learned that needs were inconvenient. They may have learned to become easy, quiet, useful, low maintenance, undemanding. They may have learned to wait until pain became unbearable before speaking. They may have learned to explain hurt so politely that nobody realized how much it hurt. They may have learned that being loved meant being agreeable. If those lessons live somewhere in you, bringing the flame inward includes rewriting what care means. Care can sound like no. Care can sound like I need time. Care can sound like I cannot do that. Care can sound like this is hurting me. Care can sound like I need support. Care can sound like I am leaving. Care can sound like I do not have enough information to decide yet. Care can sound like I changed my mind. Care can sound like I need to speak with someone qualified before I choose. The flame does not ask you to become smaller so the room stays comfortable. It asks you to stay close enough to yourself that you can tell when your own light is being ignored. That may be one of the hardest rearrangements of all. You stop confusing being needed with being loved. You stop confusing being chosen with being valued. You stop confusing being pursued with being respected. You stop confusing intensity with safety. You stop confusing your capacity to endure something with a requirement to endure it. You stop confusing patience with permission for other people to avoid responsibility. You begin to see that trust has edges, warmth has edges. Even a flame needs a boundary around it to keep burning. This is why the cupped hands matter. They do not crush the light. They do not expose it carelessly either. They make a protected space. That space is not a wall against life. It is a shape that says, this matters. Your time matters. Your body matters. Your attention matters. Your peace matters. Your hope matters. Your limits matter. Your capacity matters. When those things matter to you, waiting changes. You no longer wait as someone begging the future to validate you. You wait as someone who remains in relationship with themselves. You may still feel longing. You may still want movement. You may still look toward the door. The difference is that you are no longer standing outside yourself while you do it. This is where the first question we planted begins to answer itself. Earlier, the question was not whether something outside you was moving. The deeper question was what you do inside yourself while the answer remains invisible. Now you know. You bring the light inward. You stop asking the unknown to perform the work of reassurance that can begin in your own hands. You stop demanding that the future comfort the part of you living in the present. You stop requiring a message to tell you that you are worthy. You stop requiring a decision to tell you that you belong. You stop requiring another person's certainty to become your certainty. You stop requiring external movement before you let internal care begin. That is the shift. The room may remain unfinished. The hands are no longer empty. There is something quietly powerful about recognizing that you do not need to know the whole arrangement in order to care for the part of you standing inside it. You can be in the middle and still be held. You can be waiting and still be alive. You can be uncertain and still be worthy of tenderness. You can be disappointed and still belong to yourself. You can be hopeful without handing hope the job of protecting you from every possible pain. This is a more durable hope. It does not break the moment reality becomes complicated. It bends. It adjusts. It keeps enough light to see what is true. The smaller hands begin to understand something they could not understand before. They were never asking you to control the universe. They were asking you not to disappear while you waited for it. They were not asking you to guarantee the answer. They were asking you to remain near. They were not asking for a perfect future. They were asking for warmth in the present. That is why the flame had to change direction. You have carried so much light outward. You have tried to illuminate people's intentions. You have tried to illuminate timing. You have tried to illuminate every decision before making it. You have tried to illuminate the reasons behind every delay. You have tried to illuminate the end of stories that were only halfway written. Now the hands turn. The movement is simple. The meaning is not. Your grown hands bring the flame inward. The smaller hands open. There is no hurry in the exchange. No one is being tested. No one has to earn the warmth. The flame does not ask whether the smaller hands worried too much yesterday. It does not ask whether they checked the phone. It does not ask whether they trusted enough. It does not ask whether they cried. It does not ask whether they made the perfect choice. It gives light because light is what it has to give. This is the point where self-love becomes less like a feeling and more like a promise. Not a promise that, you will never hurt. Not a promise that you will never become afraid. Not a promise that you will always know the right thing. A promise about where the light goes when uncertainty arrives. I pass the warm flame inward, and I cup its light in my smaller hands. Let the words stay close to the image. I pass the warm flame inward, and I cup its light in my smaller hands. There is no demand in that vow, no performance, no bargain with the universe. You are not saying that because you pass the flame inward, life owes you a reward. You are not saying that because you care for yourself, every door must open. You are saying something more intimate. I know where my light belongs while I wait. I know what I can give myself while the larger arrangement continues beyond my sight. The vow is not about controlling what finishes. It is about how you live before it finishes. I pass the warm flame inward, and I cup its light in my smaller hands. You may feel the word pass differently now. It is not release into emptiness. It is transfer. Something moves from one set of hands to another. The grown hands do not lose the flame by sharing it inward. The smaller hands do not steal it. Both become part of the same light. That is the healing inside the image. There was never a true separation between the one who needed care and the one capable of giving it. Both were you. Both are you. The grown self who knows more. The smaller self who feels first. The grown hands that can choose. The smaller hands that can receive. You do not need to erase one to become the other. You can become whole enough to hold both. This changes the way you meet the next delay. The phone can remain quiet. You can feel the first rise of worry. Then you can remember the hands. The email can remain unanswered. You can feel the old urge to turn the silence into a story. Then you can remember the flame. Someone can be uncertain about you. You can dislike that uncertainty without making their uncertainty the measure of your value. A plan can take longer than expected. You can adjust without calling the whole path a failure. You can receive disappointing information and still refuse to turn disappointment into self-contempt. You can receive good information and let yourself enjoy it without immediately searching for the next danger. That last one matters too. Some people become so practiced at bracing that even good news is difficult to hold. The mind says, "Do not celebrate yet." Something could change. Something always changes. You can let joy be real even when it is not permanent. You can hold a bright moment without demanding that it promise eternity. The candle teaches that too. Its value is not reduced because a flame moves. Its warmth is real while it is here. You can receive what is good while it is good, Shane. You can mourn what ends when it ends. You do not have to pre-mourn everything you love in order to prove you understand impermanence. You do not have to make yourself cold, so change cannot surprise you. That is another old form of protection. If I do not care too much, I cannot hurt too much. If I expect less, I cannot be disappointed. If I stay detached, I cannot be left. If I keep one foot outside the room, no ending can trap me. The smaller hands know this strategy. They have used it. The flame offers another possibility. Warmth with discernment. Openness with boundaries, hope with reality, love without self-erasure, trust without blindness, care without control. You do not need to become invulnerable. You need a relationship with yourself strong enough to remain present when vulnerability appears. That is much more human and much more useful. There is another question now. It is smaller than the first one, quieter. It may not seem important yet. If the flame is finally being passed inward, What happens when those smaller hands stop reaching outward for proof? Think about that. Not as something to solve now. Just let the question remain near the candle. What becomes possible when the hands that once begged the room for light begin holding warmth of their own? We will let that answer ripen. For now, there is one small way to make this personal without turning it into a ritual. Choose a word that describes what you want to carry while the outer story remains unfinished, not the outcome you are demanding, the quality you want in your own hands: steadiness, patience, courage, clarity, warmth, dignity, trust, truth, rest, discernment, hope, whatever word belongs to you. If you want to leave it in the comments, let that one word stand for the light you are choosing to hold inward. No explanation is required. The word is enough. Then return to yourself. Return to the hands. Return to what is actually here. There is something else that becomes visible when you stop projecting all your light into the future. You begin seeing what the present has been trying to show you, the conversation you have been avoiding, the limit you already know, the tiredness you kept calling laziness, the friendship that has been quietly supporting you, the task that is actually manageable when separated from the 10 imaginary tasks surrounding it. The beauty you kept postponing because one problem felt too important. The evidence that you have already changed. You may realize that some rearrangement has not been happening around you. It has been happening through you. Your standards are not what they were. Your tolerance for confusion may be changing. Your need to chase may be changing. Your ability to sit with unanswered questions may be changing. Your willingness to ask for support may be changing. Your definition of love may be changing. Your relationship with your own attention may be changing. That does not mean every outer situation resolves the way you hoped. It means the outer outcome is no longer the only place where transformation is permitted to exist. There is dignity in that realization, because it gives your life back to you before the ending arrives. You do not have to wait for the final page to become someone who is more loyal to what is true. You do not have to wait for the door to open to become someone who respects their own time. You do not have to wait for another person to choose you to become someone who chooses what is healthy. You do not have to wait for certainty to begin listening to yourself. You do not have to wait for everything to settle before you stop living as if you are on trial. The candle is already in motion, from the grown hands toward the smaller hands, from outward searching toward inward warmth, from control toward discernment, from prediction toward presence, from panic toward the next honest choice. There may still be darkness beyond the reach of the flame. Let there be darkness where you do not yet have information. You do not need to fill it with frightening stories. You do not need to fill it with beautiful stories either. Unknown can remain unknown. That is a surprisingly peaceful sentence. Unknown can remain unknown. You can leave some rooms unopened until reality gives you the key. You can leave some questions unanswered until there is something true to answer them with. You can let other people reveal themselves over time. You can let your own desires become clearer without rushing them into decisions. You can let the process be unfinished without calling yourself unfinished. The flame does not become impatient with the room. It does not measure how much darkness remains. It gives warmth where it is. Your hands are learning the same thing. There is enough light for this part, enough to tell the truth, enough to take the real step, enough to refuse the harmful one, enough to ask for help, enough to rest after action, enough to wait without disappearing, enough to hold yourself through uncertainty, enough to leave the future some space in which to become what it becomes. The smaller hands are not reaching as far now. They are beginning to curve around the warmth. The grown hands remain close. Nothing has been abandoned. Nothing has been forced. Something has been transferred. Something has been received. And somewhere inside that simple exchange, the need to chase every distant light is beginning to lose its power. As the need to chase every distant light weakens, the body begins to realize it no longer has to stand guard over the whole future. That realization may not arrive as a dramatic feeling. It may be quieter. A little less pressure behind the eyes, a little less urgency in the hands, a little more space around the next thought. The body often needs time to learn what the mind has only recently understood. You can tell yourself that you do not need to solve everything today, while your shoulders still behave as if the entire day is resting on them. You can understand that another person's decision does not determine your worth, while your stomach still tightens when their name appears. You can know that you have already taken the reasonable step, while your hands still want to reach for the phone. This is not failure. The body learned through repetition. It can learn something new through repetition too. Not forced repetition, not a performance, experience. The experience of remaining here when uncertainty appears. The experience of feeling the first signal without immediately turning it into a command. The experience of bringing warmth inward before reaching outward. The experience of discovering that a feeling can rise, move, and change without being obeyed. You do not need to make your body calm. You can meet it where it is. Begin with the forehead. This is where so much invisible work can gather. Planning, predicting, reviewing, calculating, imagining. The forehead can carry the expression of someone trying to see farther than human sight can reach. Let it remember that it does not have to read tomorrow. It only needs enough light for what is here. The eyes have worked hard too. They have searched screens, faces, messages, rooms, expressions. They have looked for evidence of welcome, evidence of distance, evidence of change, evidence that something was about to happen. They do not need to search every corner now. Your eyes can belong to the present again. They can see the actual room, the actual person, the actual page, the actual cup in your hand, the actual path in front of your feet. The jaw can stop preparing arguments that have not been requested. It does not have to rehearse every defense. It does not have to hold the sentence you may never need to say. It does not have to prove that you were right. It does not have to prepare for every misunderstanding. There will be words available if words are needed. The throat does not have to carry every unsaid truth at once. Some truths need speaking, some need time, some need a safer place, some need no audience at all. You can let the throat know that silence and suppression are not the same thing. You can choose when to speak from steadiness rather than from the terror that this may be your last chance to be understood. Your shoulders have carried futures that were never placed there, other people's reactions, other people's healing, other people's expectations, timelines, deadlines, possibilities, responsibilities that belonged partly to someone else. Set down what is not in your hands. Keep what is. That is enough. Your chest may still contain the ache of wanting. Let wanting exist without turning it into begging. You can want a loving answer. You can want progress. You can want relief. You can want companionship. You can want a door to open. You can want your effort to lead somewhere meaningful. Wanting does not reduce your dignity. The chest can hold desire and still hold itself. Your hands know this lesson best now. Look at them for a moment if that feels natural. These hands can act. These hands can stop. These hands can open. These hands can close. These hands can hold. These hands can release what is no longer theirs to carry. Most importantly, these hands can bring the flame inward. They do not need to point it toward every unanswered question. They know the way back. The stomach often reacts before explanation arrives. A name on a screen, a bill, a result, a tone, a date, a silence, a memory. The stomach can tighten as if it has already been told the ending. Offer it a different message. We have information when we have information. Until then, We do not have to digest an imagined future. Your back has been supporting you through days when you thought you were barely managing. It has carried you through ordinary tasks during extraordinary worry. It does not need to brace for everything at once. You can lean into what is real: a chair, a wall, a trusted person, a practical plan, your own experience. Support is not weakness. The hips can release the readiness to run from something that has not happened. They can also keep their strength. For the moment, movement is truly needed. You are not trapped by choosing not to panic. Calm does not take away your ability to move. Steadiness can make movement clearer. Your legs do not need to race ahead of your life. They can carry you through the next actual place. Across the room, down the street, into the appointment, out of the meeting, toward the person who is safe, away from the place that is not. One real step has more value than 100 imagined ones. Your feet do not need to know the entire route. They need contact with the ground beneath them, this ground, this day, this part. You are here. That is enough information for the next honest movement. Carry that with you. Not as another practice you must remember perfectly, as a way of returning whenever you realize you have wandered too far into what has not happened. You might be making coffee when the old thought returns. You might be answering an email. You might be walking through a store. You might be getting dressed. You might be sitting in traffic. You might be speaking with someone who has no idea how much uncertainty you are carrying. Nothing about the moment has to become ceremonial. The flame travels with ordinary life. It belongs in kitchens, cars, offices, hallways, waiting rooms, shops, quiet bedrooms in the afternoon, crowded places where nobody knows your private question. The light does not require special conditions. You can remember it while tying a shoe, while closing a laptop, while putting the phone down, while deciding not to reread something, while opening a window, while preparing food, while walking into a conversation you have been avoiding. The grown hands remain yours everywhere. The smaller hands remain yours everywhere. The exchange can happen without anyone else seeing it. This is how an inner change becomes part of a life. It stops living only in beautiful ideas. This is why you may have moments when you speak to yourself with great wisdom and then, an hour later, find yourself checking again. You did not forget the wisdom. Another part of you became louder. That part is not an enemy. It is usually trying to prevent the pain of being surprised. It thinks that if it keeps watching, it can catch disappointment before disappointment catches you. It thinks that if it predicts every possibility, Nothing will hit you unprepared. It thinks that if it notices the first change in someone's tone, the first delay, the first distance, the first shift, the first closed door, it can protect you from the full force of what might come next. This part can become exhausted from its own loyalty. It has been standing at the window for a long time. It has been listening at doors. It has been reading faces. It has been watching the temperature of rooms you enter. It has been trying to determine whether you are welcome before you relax. It has been measuring whether love is still there. It has been checking whether approval has been withdrawn. It has been studying whether someone is upset. It has been deciding whether now is a safe time to speak. It has been asking whether you are too much, not enough, too late, too slow, too sensitive, too needy, too hopeful, too trusting, too cautious. That kind of scanning does not appear from nowhere. Some people learned early that the mood of a room could change quickly. Some learned that affection could feel warm one day and distant the next. Some learned that praise was safest when they performed well. Some learned to listen for footsteps, tone, silence, doors, size, and small changes in energy because those details mattered. Some learned that asking directly did not always produce a clear answer. Some learned that being prepared felt better than being surprised, said. Some learned to become very good at sensing everybody else while losing contact with what was happening inside themselves. If any of that belongs to your story, there is no shame in it. The mind was trying to help. The body was trying to help. The version of you who learned to scan was not trying to ruin your peace. That version was trying to keep you connected to safety, belonging, love, predictability, or control in the only way it understood. A protective strategy can be intelligent and still become tiring when carried into every room. It can save you in one season and drain you in another. It can help you survive uncertainty and later make every uncertainty feel like an emergency. That does not make you broken. It means a strategy that once had a purpose may now need a different job. A message comes late. Your mind says something changed. Your body responds as if the change has already been proven. Then you start searching. You search the past for evidence. You search the future for consequences. You search yourself for what you did wrong. The original event was a late message. It enters behavior. You notice that you are about to check again. You wait long enough to ask what you are actually seeking. Information or relief? If it is information and there may reasonably be new information, you can look. If it is relief, you can ask whether the screen has truly been giving you relief. That question can save you from repeating a movement that only feeds the ache it promises to settle. You notice that you are writing a message that has become much longer than the truth requires. You stop. You read it. You ask whether you are communicating or trying to control the response. Sometimes you send the clear version. Sometimes you decide nothing needs sending. Both can be wise. You notice yourself explaining a boundary for the fourth time. The flame comes inward. You remember that a boundary does not become more valid because the explanation becomes longer. You notice someone offering inconsistent attention. The old part wants to gather every small moment of warmth and use it as evidence of something larger. The grown hands ask a quieter question. What is the pattern? Not the promise, not the possibility. The pattern. Light helps you see what is there. It does not invent what is missing. You notice a delay in your work. The old mind calls it failure. You look again. Perhaps there is a practical problem to solve. Perhaps there is a timeline to revise. Perhaps there is feedback to gather. Or perhaps the day is only slower than you wanted it to be. You do not need to turn one slow day into a prophecy about your future. You notice yourself comparing someone else's relationship, someone else's home, someone else's career, someone else's audience, someone else's money, someone else's confidence, someone else's apparent ease. Comparison lifts your flame toward a room you are not living in. Bring it back. Their room is theirs. Your hands are here. Your life needs your light more than their life needs your inspection. You notice that you are trying to earn rest. One more task, one more reply, one more correction, one more thing finished before you can stop. Ask whether the flame becomes more worthy when exhausted. It does not. Your worth is not increased by depletion. You can complete what is truly necessary without making exhaustion a moral achievement. That is how the body begins to trust the grown hands. Not because the grown hands promise that nothing difficult will happen, because they become more consistent. They listen. They look at evidence. They act when action is needed. They do not force the smaller hands to pretend. They do not shame fear. They do not hand every decision to fear either. They return, again through experience, not as a command, as a pattern of care. The smaller hands begin to loosen because they are learning that someone is finally watching the right place. Not every door, not every shadow. Them. This is where the smaller question from before begins to glow more brightly. What happens when the hands that once reached outward for proof begin holding warmth of their own? At first, very little may appear to happen. That is important. You may expect a spiritual shift to feel enormous. Sometimes it looks like not sending the message. Sometimes it looks like eating lunch even though you are worried. Sometimes it looks like going to the appointment instead of searching endlessly for reassurance online. Sometimes it looks like putting your attention back into your work for 20 minutes. Sometimes it looks like laughing without feeling guilty for forgetting the problem for a moment. Sometimes it looks like saying, "I still do not know," and then continuing with the day. These moments can seem too ordinary to count. They count. They are evidence that your attention is returning to your own life. The smaller hands stop reaching so far. They start noticing what they are already holding. That changes your relationship with receiving. You begin to receive what is present instead of living only for what is absent. The meal, the conversation, the sunlight across a floor. The friend's message that is already here instead of the message that has not arrived. The skill you already possess instead of only the opportunity you have not received. The person who shows up consistently instead of the person whose inconsistency keeps activating hope. The money that can be managed today instead of the entire financial future imagined at once. The hour in front of you instead of the year you cannot predict. This does not mean settling for less. It means seeing more accurately. You can desire more and still receive what is already good. You can work toward change and still inhabit the life that exists before the change. You can plan for tomorrow without making today a waiting room. That may be one of the greatest forms of freedom available to you. Today is not merely the hallway leading to the day when everything finally works. This day is part of your life. Even unfinished, even uncertain, even imperfect. You do not need to spend it staring at a closed door. There are other things in the room. Your own hands are here. Your breath is here. Your choices are here. Some form of support may be here. Some beauty may be here. Some truth is here. Some next step is here. The flame is here. That is where the affirmations begin to change too. They do not need to sound like declarations shouted at reality. They can sound like the truth of hands learning how to hold themselves. I can care without controlling. I can hope without chasing. I can wait without disappearing. I can act without forcing. I can ask without begging. I can listen without inventing. I can trust myself to meet what becomes clear. I can leave what is still unknown outside the reach of today's decisions. I can hold warmth while the answer is still forming. I can protect my light without closing my heart. I can look at reality without turning reality against myself. I can want more without rejecting what is here. I can be disappointed without becoming hopeless. I can receive good moments before everything is resolved. I can let another person's choice belong to them. I can let my worth remain mine. I can bring the flame inward. I can cup the light. I can stay close to what is true. These lines do not need to convince the future. They are not instructions for the universe. They are reminders of the relationship you are building within your own hands. A relationship based on presence rather than prediction, truth rather than fantasy, warmth rather than self-pressure, discernment rather than fear. There is still room for mystery. There is still room for hope. There is still room for surprises you could not have planned. You do not need to close those doors. You only stop standing outside them all day. You come back to the light you can actually hold. The sentences can become smaller now. Your body has heard enough explanation. Your hands understand the image. Let the words become easier to carry. I hold what is mine. I release what is not. I choose clear action. I leave room around the unknown. My worth remains here. My light remains here. My hands know home. Warmth comes inward. I do not chase every shadow. I do not need every answer. I can meet this day. I can meet myself. I can wait with dignity. I can hope with wisdom. I can choose from truth. I can hold the flame. The smaller hands receive. The grown hands remain. The light stays close. There is enough for now. Enough for this hour. Enough for this choice. Enough for these hands. And before the final part of this settles, there is one last thing the candle has been showing you from the beginning. You may have thought the unfinished process was asking you to become better at waiting. It was asking something deeper. The answer is already sitting in the smaller hands. The smaller hands are no longer empty. That is the answer that has been waiting inside the image. What happens when the hands that once reached outward for proof begin holding warmth of their own? They stop begging every distant light to tell them who they are. They stop treating every silence as a command to move. They stop believing that the only safe future is the one they can see in advance. They begin to receive. Not everything, not every outcome they hoped for, not every answer on the schedule they would have chosen. They begin to receive what is actually here, their own warmth, their own attention, their own right to pause before reacting, their own ability to ask for help, their own capacity to choose again when new information arrives, their own permission to let one unfinished thing remain unfinished without making the whole self unfinished with it. This is what the candle has been showing you from the beginning. You thought the lesson was about waiting more gracefully. It was about no longer disappearing inside the wait. There is a difference. Waiting can become a hallway where you pace until life gives you permission to enter another room. Or waiting can become part of the room you are already living in. You can still make food, still answer the honest message, still laugh, still change your mind, still make the appointment, still call someone trustworthy, still work on what is yours, still take a walk, still say no, still say yes when yes is true. Still let something beautiful reach you before the larger question is resolved. That does not mean the unresolved thing no longer matters. It means it no longer gets to occupy every inch of your inner space. The smaller hands have warmth now. They do not have to reach into every corner. They do not have to tug at the sleeve of the future and ask, "Are we safe yet?" They can stay close to the flame. This is where the words become simpler. I am here. My hands are here. My light is here. I can meet what comes. I can meet what is. I do not need to rush. I do not need to predict. I can ask clearly. I can listen clearly. I can stop clearly. I can choose clearly. I can change course. I can receive support. I can protect what matters. I can leave room for truth. I can let another person be responsible for their part. I can let timing be timing. I can let silence remain silence until it becomes information. I can let one closed door be one closed door. I can let one delay be one delay. I can let one disappointment be one disappointment. I do not have to turn a moment into a destiny. I do not have to turn fear into prophecy. I do not have to turn hope into pressure. I can hold both hope and reality. I can hold warmth and uncertainty. I can hold desire and dignity. I can hold an open question without handing it my whole life. The grown hands know how. The smaller hands can learn. The flame can stay close. Perhaps you notice now that the universe does not need to be imagined as a machine obeying every thought. Life is larger and more mysterious than that. People make choices. Circumstances change. Plans meet other plans. Some things work. Some things do not. Some things arrive differently than expected. Some things take longer than you wanted. Some things ask you to respond in ways you never rehearsed. The spiritual invitation is not to pretend you control all of this. It is to stop assuming that uncertainty means you have been forgotten. You can remain open without inventing guarantees. You can let possibility exist without turning possibility into a promise. You can let faith be spacious enough to include reality. That kind of faith does not need constant proof. It does not need to force meaning onto every delay. It can say, I do not know what this becomes yet. It can say, I will respond when there is something real to respond to. It can say, I will care for myself while the picture remains incomplete. That is enough, more than enough. The flame does not ask for a speech. It asks for hands, your hands, the grown ones that have learned, the smaller ones that still feel, both close enough now to share the same warmth. I can trust what is changing, even before I understand where it is leading. The sentence returns differently now. It is not asking you to trust an outcome. It is asking you to trust your capacity to remain awake to truth while change unfolds. I can trust what is changing even before I understand where it is leading. You may understand the word trust more softly now. Trust does not mean staying where you are harmed. Trust does not mean ignoring the facts. Trust does not mean refusing help. Trust does not mean accepting less than respect. Trust does not mean that every closed door was meant to close or every painful event was sent to teach you something. Trust can mean this: I will not manufacture certainty where none exists. I will not make fear the only interpreter in the room. I will not use hope to erase evidence. I will not use evidence to erase possibility. I will meet what is true. I will carry warmth while I do. If even that feels too far today, return to the smaller line. I am willing to feel safe while I do not know yet. Willingness is enough. No performance, no test, no need to make the body prove that the words worked. The forehead can be what it is. The eyes can see what is here. The jaw can release the argument it may never need. The throat can keep the truth until the right moment. The shoulders can carry only what belongs to them. The chest can want without begging. The hands can hold the flame. The stomach can wait for facts. The back can receive support. The hips can move when movement is needed. the legs can take the next real step. The feet can stay with the ground that exists. This is how the light becomes lived, not by thinking about it perfectly, by letting it accompany ordinary choices. One honest reply, one clear boundary, one meal, one phone put down, one request for help, one decision not to chase, one decision to follow up because follow-up is actually needed. One moment of receiving what is already good. One moment of refusing what is not good enough. One moment of not knowing without calling yourself lost. The final movement is not toward a grand answer. It is toward simplicity. I am here. I am listening. I am learning. I can wait. I can act. I can receive. I can discern. I can soften. I can choose. I can stop. I can begin. My hands are steady. My light is close. Warmth stays inward. Truth stays welcome. Hope has room. Fear has limits. My worth remains. My voice remains. My choice remains. I am not late. I am not forgotten by myself. I do not chase. I do not force. I do not beg. I do not shrink. I hold the flame. I cup the light. I keep it close. Enough light. Enough warmth. Steady hands. Open hands. Clear eyes. Quiet strength. Held within. Still here. Still warm. Still mine. Let these shorter words do less work. They do not have to push anything into place. They do not have to make the universe hurry. They do not have to convince another person. They do not have to change a decision already made elsewhere. They are only here to remind you that your inner life does not have to be dragged behind every external uncertainty. If your attention wandered while listening, nothing important was lost. If part of you resisted some of these words, nothing went wrong. If your mind returned to the person, the message, the money, the decision, the result, the door, or the timeline, you do not need to scold it. Return when you return. The candle has not gone anywhere. You do not earn the light through perfect attention. You do not lose it because a difficult thought came back. You do not fail because uncertainty still feels uncomfortable. The grown hands can find the smaller hands again. That is enough. This is how change becomes durable. Not through one flawless moment, through a relationship you can return to. You may leave this reflection and check the phone later. You may worry again. You may feel impatience tomorrow. You may discover new information that changes what you need to do. None of that cancels the light. The point was never to become someone who no longer reacts to life. The point was to become someone who does not have to leave themselves every time life becomes unclear. That is the rearrangement closest to you. Once that rearrangement begins, you may notice how many other things look different from inside it. A delay feels less like a judgment. A boundary feels less like cruelty. A question feels less like an emergency. A no feels less like annihilation. A yes feels less like rescue. Another person's attention feels pleasant without becoming proof of your worth. Another person's distance feels painful without becoming proof of your unworthiness. An opportunity can be welcomed without becoming your only path. An ending can be mourned without becoming the end of you. This is what the smaller hands make possible when they stop reaching outward for proof. They become available for discernment, available for receiving, available for the present, available for warmth that is not dependent on permission. They are no longer empty enough to accept anything just because something arrived. That may be one of the most important changes of all. When your hands are empty from self-neglect, crumbs can feel enormous. When your hands are already holding warmth, you can look at what is offered more clearly. Is it respectful? Is it mutual? Is it honest? Is it enough for the life I am building? Does it require me to keep abandoning what I know? Do I feel more myself here or less? These questions are not demands for perfection. They are signs that your own light is participating in the choice. You are not only asking, will they choose me? You can ask, is this something I choose? You are not only asking, will this door open? You can ask, what kind of room is on the other side? You are not only asking, when will the answer come? You can ask, how do I want to live before it does? That is the answer the candle has been carrying. The universe may be rearranging circumstances beyond what you can see, or life may simply be moving through ordinary causes, choices, timing, and change in ways no one can fully predict. Either way, you do not have to interrupt every unfinished process with fear. You can take the step that is yours. You can leave the rest some room. You can let what is still unfolding finish, becoming what it becomes. While it does, you do not wait in darkness. You know where the flame goes. Into the grown hands, toward the smaller hands, into the space between them, into your next choice, into the boundary, into the honest question, into the ordinary day, into the part of you that once believed the light always had to come from somewhere else. All is well in your world. Not because every outcome is guaranteed, not because every question has been answered, because you are no longer asking uncertainty to decide whether you deserve warmth. The grown hands come closer, the smaller hands open. No chasing, no proving, no forcing. The flame passes inward. The light is received. The room can remain unfinished for now. Your hands are no longer empty. The flame is home in your hands. The inner experience becomes an entire story. The mind dislikes the space between effort and outcome. It wants the bridge to appear at once. When the bridge does not appear, it may begin blaming you. You should have done more. You should have started sooner. You should have known. You should have been clearer. You should have left. You should have stayed. You should have spoken. You should have been quiet. You should have chosen differently. You should be over this. You should trust more. You should stop caring. These sentences can sound like self-improvement, but often they are fear wearing a serious face. Fear loves certainty, even painful certainty. If it cannot know what is coming, it may decide that something bad is coming, because a painful prediction can feel easier than an open question. A painful prediction gives the mind something to prepare for. Hope asks the mind to remain open. Openness can feel vulnerable. That is one reason good possibilities can be surprisingly difficult to hold. You may say you want something beautiful to happen, and you do. Then a quiet voice says, "Do not get excited. Do not expect too much. Do not celebrate yet. Do not tell anyone. Do not trust it. Do not relax. Something might go wrong." This voice often believes disappointment becomes smaller if joy is kept small first. It tries to reduce future pain by reducing present aliveness. You do not have to fight that voice. Fighting a protective part often makes it grip harder. You can understand what it is trying to do without handing it every decision. You can hear it without building your entire future around its fear. You can say, "I know why you are worried." You can say, "I know why you want proof." You can say, "I know why you keep looking at the door." You can say, "We do not have the answer yet, and I am still here." There is a maturity in that sentence that has nothing to do with being perfectly calm. You can be unsettled and still be kind to yourself. You can be uncertain and still eat. You can be uncertain and still rest. You can be uncertain and still make the practical call that is yours to make. You can be uncertain and still decline something that does not feel right. You can be uncertain and still stop explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You can be uncertain and still laugh at something funny. You can be uncertain and still step outside. You can be uncertain and still let an ordinary day contain ordinary goodness. The answer does not have to arrive before your life is permitted to continue. This is important because sometimes waiting quietly becomes a hidden bargain. I will live when I know. I will relax when I hear back. I will feel worthy when they choose me. I will trust myself when someone confirms I made the right decision. I will stop checking when there is finally nothing left to check. I will feel safe when the future has explained itself. The future cannot make that bargain for you. No outcome can permanently remove the human experience of not knowing. One answer comes, and another question eventually appears. One door opens, and later you stand before another door. One relationship becomes clear, and another part of life becomes uncertain. One season settles, and another asks you to grow. If safety depends on complete certainty, safety keeps moving farther away. This does not mean you must love uncertainty. It means you can begin building a form of steadiness that does not disappear every time information is incomplete. None of this means you should romanticize difficulty. It means your life has already shown you that uncertainty and helplessness are not the same thing. You are not powerless merely because you cannot see the whole arrangement. You can choose what belongs to your hands today. You can choose the email that needs to be sent. You can choose the boundary that needs to be spoken. You can choose the rest your body has been asking for. You can choose not to send the message written only to stop anxiety for 5 minutes. You can choose to ask a clear question instead of decoding 20 clues. You can choose to seek good information when information is available. You can choose to stop searching once there is nothing new to learn. You can choose to let another person reveal themselves through consistent action instead of filling every silence with your imagination. You can choose to let timing remain timing. You can choose to let what is unresolved be unresolved for one afternoon without turning that afternoon into a courtroom. There is freedom in separating what needs action from what needs space. There is a moment after you have done what you can when the mind says, "Now what?" That is oft and the moment you reach for the phone. That is often the moment you reopen the conversation. That is often the moment you search again. What if that moment became something else? Not a discipline, not a rule, not another way to judge yourself. A different place to put your attention. You have spent so much time watching the outer door that you may not have noticed the smaller signal inside. The jaw that tightens before you check. The chest that braces before you open the email. The stomach that contracts when a name appears. The throat that closes when you think you may have disappointed someone. The hands that move before you have consciously decided what to do. Your body often tells the story a fraction of a second before your mind explains it. That fraction matters. It is a doorway, not a doorway into perfect control, a doorway back toward yourself. The next time the urge to check appears, you do not have to forbid it. You can become curious about what came immediately before it. Was there a flash of loneliness, a fear of being forgotten, a thought that everyone else is moving ahead, a feeling that you are running out of time, a memory of the last time something went wrong, a belief that if you do not stay alert, life will make a decision without you. The checking is often the second thing. The first thing is a feeling. When you meet the first thing, the second thing does not need to carry so much weight. This is where self-kindness becomes practical, not as a slogan, not as a decoration placed over pain, as a way of responding to the part of you that has been doing too much work. You can place language around what is happening. I want reassurance. I do not know yet. This silence is touching an older fear. I am afraid of being disappointed. I am afraid of looking foolish for hoping. I am afraid I missed my chance. I am afraid someone changed their mind. I am afraid I am behind. I am tired of waiting. Clear language reduces the fog. Once the feeling is named, you no longer have to turn it into prophecy. Fear can be present without becoming a forecast. Longing can be present without becoming a command. Grief can be present without becoming evidence that nothing good remains. Disappointment can be present without becoming your identity. Uncertainty can be present without becoming an emergency. You have probably had moments when you were convinced you knew what someone's silence meant, only to learn later that your story was incomplete. You have probably worried about an outcome that turned out differently than expected. You have probably spent hours trying to solve something that eventually changed for reasons you could not have predicted. You have probably also had fears that did become real. That matters too. This is not an argument that everything always works out exactly as you wish. That would not be honest. People disappoint us. Plans fail. Bodies require care. Money can become frightening. Relationships can end. Opportunities can close. Loss is real. Life can ask more of us than we wanted to give. Real trust cannot be built on denying those truths. It is built on a different foundation. It says, I do not need to lie to myself in order to stay connected to myself. It says, I can meet information when information arrives. It says, I can seek support when I need support. It says, I can act when action is mine. It says, I do not have to injure myself with imagined futures while reality is still unfinished. That is a powerful change. It is also a compassionate one. The mind that checks is not bad. The heart that hopes is not naive. The body that braces is not betraying you. The part that wants an answer is not spiritually immature. You do not need to shame these parts into silence. Shame does not create trust. Shame creates hiding. The goal is not to become a person who never worries. The goal is to become a person who can meet worry without automatically giving it the keys. You can hear the alarm and still look around. You can ask, Is there something real I need to do? If yes, do it with care. If no, then the next act may be inward. This is the part that rarely gets taught. We are taught to pursue answers. We are taught to improve outcomes. We are taught to optimize, fix, solve, attract, achieve, impress, prepare, predict, and manage. We are not always taught what to do with ourselves during the interval. The interval is where so much suffering happens. Not only because something is uncertain, but because you can begin treating yourself as if you are not permitted to feel safe until the uncertainty ends. You postpone tenderness. You postpone rest. You postpone laughter. You postpone attention to what is already good. You make the whole room wait for one closed door. You make every conversation wait for one missing message. You make the whole day wait for one outcome. You make your worth wait for someone else's response. My dear, your life is larger than the answer you are waiting for. Your heart is larger than the person whose response you keep trying to decode. Your future is larger than this one decision. Your worth is larger than this one season. Your capacity to care for yourself is larger than the part of you that feels afraid right now. You do not have to deny the importance of what you want in order to stop making it the only source of warmth in your life. That word matters. Warmth. You have been looking outward for the sign that says it is safe to unclench, safe to hope, safe to stop scanning, safe to believe you are still included in life. What if the first warmth does not arrive from the screen, the answer, the person, the result, or the open door? What if there is another place it can begin? There is a smaller part of you that has been waiting too. Not for the call, same message, not for the same outcome, not even for certainty. It has been waiting for you to turn toward it. It has been holding its hands out in the dark, not asking you to explain the future, only asking whether some light can come from you. We are going there next. The hands waiting inside you are smaller than the hands you use to move through the world. They are not helpless hands. They are not broken hands. They belong to the part of you that existed before you learned how much could be demanded of you, before you learned how often people could misunderstand each other, before you learned how quickly a plan could change. Imagine those smaller hands cupped together. Nothing dramatic, nothing mystical that you have to force yourself to see. Just two small hands held close, waiting. Now imagine your grown hands above them. Your grown hands have carried so much. They have written difficult messages. They have closed doors. They have opened others. They have packed bags. They have signed papers. They have held steering wheels while your mind was somewhere else. They have made meals when you were tired. They have wiped tears from your own face. They have reached toward people. They have pulled away from people. They have worked. They have waited. They have searched. They have held tightly to things you were afraid to lose. They have finally released things that could no longer be carried. These are experienced hands. They know more than the smaller hands know. They have survived more than the smaller hands can imagine. Now there is a candle between them. One small flame, warm, steady enough to see, not bright enough to reveal the whole room. That matters. Because you have spent so much of your life asking light to do something light was never required to do. You wanted it to show you the whole road. You wanted it to show you what another person would decide. You wanted it to show you what would happen next month. You wanted it to prove that your effort would work. You wanted it to expose every hidden motive. You wanted it to guarantee that the door ahead would open. You wanted it to tell you whether the waiting would be worth it. You wanted the flame in your hands to become the sun. No wonder your hands became tired. A candle was never meant to illuminate every mile ahead. It was meant to give enough light for this moment, enough warmth for these hands, enough visibility to see what belongs near you now. The desire to know everything is understandable when uncertainty has hurt you before. If you have been surprised by betrayal, rejection, illness, loss, sudden change, financial strain, or a decision you did not see coming, part of you may have made a private agreement. Next time, I will see it sooner. Next time, I will recognize every sign. Next time, I will know before it happens. Next time, I will not be caught without light. That agreement can sow that unwise. It can also become impossible. No human being can keep every room illuminated. No human being can predict every turn. No amount of vigilance can remove every unknown. The grown hands eventually have to learn something the smaller hands never knew. Safety is not the same as seeing everything. You can hold light without possessing the whole horizon. You can have wisdom without having every answer. You can make a good decision without knowing how every future decision will unfold. You can care deeply without controlling the response. You can protect what is precious without squeezing it so tightly that you cannot feel its warmth anymore. Look at the flame. If you grip a candle too tightly, the grip does nothing to make the flame safer. If you carry it too quickly, the movement itself can make the light unstable. If you keep lifting it toward every distant shadow, your arm becomes exhausted. If you keep turning in every direction because you are afraid something might be behind you, you stop seeing what is directly in front of you. The light remains small, your exhaustion grows large. This is what happens inside you when every unanswered question becomes a command to search harder. You move the candle from one imagined future to another. What if this happens? What if they leave? What if they never answer? What if I made the wrong decision? What if somebody else gets there first? What if I run out of time? What if this silence means no? What if this delay means I am forgotten? The flame travels from shadow to shadow. Your hands never rest. Then you mistake your tiredness for evidence that something is wrong. Sometimes nothing new is wrong. Sometimes you have simply been carrying the light everywhere except where it is needed most. The smaller hands are still waiting. This is the turn. The flame begins moving inward, not away from reality, not away from responsibility, inward. Your grown hands come closer to those smaller, cupped hands. You do not throw the flame toward them. You do not demand that they stop being afraid before they deserve its warmth. You do not tell them that fear is negative energy. You do not lecture them about trust. You do not ask them to explain why they are still worried after everything you have learned. You bring the light close enough for them to feel it. That is all. The smaller hands do not need the future explained. They need an experience in the present. Warmth, light, contact, care. Something inside you has been asking for those things while your attention has been outside, waiting for the world to provide a reason to relax. This is one of the deepest misunderstandings of waiting. You thought you were waiting for the answer. A part of you was waiting for you. You thought the important movement had to happen somewhere beyond your reach. Some movement was already possible here. This does not cancel the outer D. A sire, you may still want the call. You may still want the relationship to become clear. You may still want the opportunity. You may still want the money problem to ease. You may still want the decision. You may still want healing support, stability, companionship, justice, relief, or direction. Wanting does not make you spiritually weak. The candle is not a substitute for practical reality. It changes how you hold yourself while reality develops. That difference is enormous. There is a way of waiting that says, I cannot be okay until this ends. There is another way that says, this matters to me, and I can still bring warmth to myself while it remains unfinished. There is a way of hoping that abandons the present. There is another way of hoping that keeps one hand in today. There is a way of trusting that becomes denial. There is another way of trusting that keeps its eyes open. The candle teaches you that distinction because flame is both soft and honest. It does not pretend the room is brighter than it is. It does not claim there are no shadows.